Hello, I'm Meredith Blackwell. I'm here at the Mycological Society of America meeting in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The year is 2019, and we're here to interview people for the Oral History for Mycology project. And we're having an interview right now.
With me.
Introduce yourself with you.
I'm Rachel Swenie. I'm a PhD student at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville in the Matheny lab. I'm from Illinois originally.
What part?
I was born in Park Ridge, which is near Chicago, and I grew up mostly around Chicago. And my parents are both, their families are from Chicago, so my family has a long history in that city. And my mother studied biology in college. She was a lab technician for some time before she had me and then my brother. And my father worked in sales, was a businessman his whole career. And so as a child, I don't know, my brother and I both had a variety of interests. I always was interested in creative pursuits, so my first love was probably writing, and I thought, maybe I wanted to be a journalist when I grew up. But when I got to college, I ended up transferring into photography, so I studied photography as an undergrad. And my interest in mycology didn't start until after undergrad, when I was...
So you got your degree in photography?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I went to art school, and I became interested in mycology when I was a volunteer at a nascent nonprofit in Chicago, in a building that was being converted into an urban farm, or vertical farm. So it was a former meatpacking plant.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so we were deconstructing and reconstructing this building, and I was watching other people start projects. Like there was an aquaponics farm growing vegetables and fish together in this old building, and somebody suggested that it could be interesting if somebody grew mushrooms in the building. And I didn't know anything about fungal biology or mushrooms, but I thought that was a really interesting proposition because I could never grow a plant to save my life, but I thought, I wonder how mushrooms grow.
Maybe easier.
Maybe it's easy. Maybe I could actually do it. So I took it upon myself to figure out exactly how mushrooms grow and how to propagate them. And so I started a mushroom farm in the plant, in this building. And it was a food grade facility where they processed meat in the former stockyards district of Chicago. And so we had this nice food grade building, including a food safety testing laboratory that I was able to...
Was it nonprofit or okay?
Yeah, it was a mix of nonprofit and for-profit businesses, but I was working with a nonprofit. And so I turned this old food safety processing lab into a little mycology lab, and I started culturing all sorts of mushrooms. Even though I didn't know anything about these mushrooms really. I actually had a friend who would FedEx me packages of mushrooms that he had collected, and then I would culture them because I really didn't have any experience hunting mushrooms.
Did you do it from spore prints or?
I used spore prints, and I also just cloned mushrooms, wild mushrooms.
From the tissue?
From the tissue, yeah, so just tissue culture. I also bought cultures of a few different varieties. Mostly grew oyster mushrooms, pleurotus, easy to propagate.
Yeah.
So that was starting point for cultivation, and then experimenting with a lot of other, edible mushrooms.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, that's amazing. You were self-taught, and I have lots of kids in classes, or I did have, who couldn't do anything with the spores. They could never germinate the spores and all. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was a lot of experimentation.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So how did you get to Tennessee?
So after some time at the farm, and the farm was functioning, and I sort of passed it off to some people that I had trained.
Oh, wait, I've got one question. How many stories high was your vertical farm?
Well, the building itself, I think, has maybe 3 stories.
Okay.
There's a basement, which is where our actual
You could
growing
grow the
operation
mushrooms.
was. Yeah. So it's more of a concept than a skyscraper.
Yeah, okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
So then we got you going down to Tennessee.
Yeah, so I became interested in, I didn't know how to identify mushrooms, or, I had a lot of other curiosity about fungi. And so I ended up moving to Tennessee. My boyfriend was living there, and I found the Matheny lab. I went to see Brandon, and I asked him, could I work in the lab? And surprisingly, he said yes. And so I started working in the lab, doing PCR, learning about sequencing fungi, finding and identifying fungi. And so it was really satisfying to be exposed to
Lots of fun.
a whole new world.
Yeah. Now I know that you've gone to at least one meeting before now, the MASMAC, which is a Mid-Atlantic States meeting.
Yeah.
Have you been to other meetings until now?
Yeah, I was at the International Congress
the
last
San Juan,
year.
yeah, the San Juan meeting.
Yeah, but my first MSA meeting was in Athens,
Okay.
Georgia.
Okay, so that's been quite a while then.
Yeah, so
Excuse me.
yeah, so now I'm working on my PhD, and yeah, I have a lot of fun coming to these meetings and meeting all sorts of great people.
So tell us about your thesis project.
So I have been working on a genus of mushrooms called Hydnum, which are related to chanterelles. And the first chapter of my dissertation focused on
Sorry.
that's okay. Taxonomy and systematics of Hydnum in Eastern North America. So now that has been disentangled, moving on and exploring whether there are differing ploidy levels across species of Hydnum. And I'm also looking at species relationships among broader Cantharellales taxa, so the order that includes Hydnum. And so far those are all the different things I'm doing.
Yeah. So how far along are you?
So I am beginning my 3rd year.
Okay, and you expect one more year or?
Probably 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah, and then what do you want to do?
Well, we'll see. I love research. I would love to continue doing research. We do a lot of specimen-based work, so something that includes, herbarium curation would be another great thing.
Do you want to teach or?
I do like teaching. Yeah, I'm hoping to teach a mycology course maybe next summer. So I would like to do that as well. So I'm open.
That's good. So you're happy with your new career?
Yeah.
Do you use photography at all?
I do, actually, because I do a lot of field work, and so I spend a lot of time photographing different things that I collect. And I did go take 2 trips with our lab and then the Smith lab from University of Florida down to Patagonia, where I spent some time photographing a lot of the cool, very interesting mushrooms that we were finding associated with Nothofagus.
Did you find Cyteria?
Yes.
Okay, I'd love to see that one.
Yeah, there was one tree where it was all
That's
over, and it was, it's really unique habitat down there.
Yeah, I've seen it dried, but I've never seen any fresh or on the tree. It would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, there are all sorts of really interesting
And did you
things.
find truffles there, or did you look?
Yeah, I wasn't, so I learned how to rake for truffles. I wasn't specifically looking for truffles, although some of the other people in the group were having great success with that.
Do you know if people actually do the, thanks, if they actually go after them for food? Do people in South America eat them?
I don't know about that. The mushrooms that we saw in one market when we were in central Chile were romaria, actually. So I know they eat those. I'm not sure if people eat truffles there for food.
And I don't even know if they're edible or worth fooling with. So.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely, but I'm not totally sure.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, there are a lot of mycologists who are excellent photographers, and mostly self-taught, and some artists too.
Yeah, that's one thing that I love about. I've learned biologists have a lot of diverse interests, and a lot of people. You know, I think growing up when I took biology classes, I never thought that I would be interested in science. It was not a subject that was presented to me as something where there's a lot of creativity associated with it. It was really about memorizing certain things, or I didn't really understand that there's a lot of creative thought and energy that goes into asking and answering biological questions. So I think that's been one of the wonderful surprises that I've learned.
Yeah, I never took biology in high school because it was a spelling test every Friday, and I was a terrible speller, so I skipped it completely.
Yeah.
Took chemistry instead. We only had to have one course, I think, in science. Yeah, it's funny. I have a granddaughter who just finished school in Chicago, but she was dedicated to math, and then all of a sudden she had to take a art course, and she became very interested in that and almost minored in it. But she worked for an artist there at the university, so it was quite nice for her to have several things to do and to sort of broaden her life. So you can always use the photography. So it's nice.
Yeah, it's a great art.
Well, it's been great to talk to you. Have you got anything else you want to say?
No.
Are you active in the student section?
Yeah, I've been to the student socials. I haven't served as a student board member or anything, but yeah, I appreciate that there are resources for students in MSA, as well as people are very welcoming to new people at the meetings. So I think that's great that everyone's very approachable.
Yeah.
You can talk to anyone, and so.
Yep, that's what happened to me years ago, and just really nice people that got me involved. So yeah, so it works well.
Yeah. So I gave a poster
Okay.
last night. Presenting our hypotheses and predictions about ploidy level in hydnum. So that went well. Got to talk to a lot of people and talk about possibility of whether or not or polyploid hydnum or polyploid basidiomycetes, because it's something that we don't know much about.
Yeah.
And whereas in the plant world, it's a very common phenomenon. So yeah, that was the topic of my poster.
And the poster session was packed.
It was packed, yes.
Yeah. Very, very stifling almost, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
It was good to talk to you.
Yeah, great to talk to you.